Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. We're going to get started in a moment, but just a quick intro. This is the Microsoft Understanding Microsoft Agents, episode 6, Agent Readiness Framework, and we're super excited to be talking through some of the key insights into how you can help you get your organization ready for succeeding and deploying and scaling your agents across your company. So super excited to be touching on this topic. If you don't know who we are, just a quick intro. I'm Rowbotham. I'm one of the senior product marketing managers for Microsoft Copilot Studio, and I'm also joined by Joe Unwin, that's also a senior product marketing manager within the same Copilot Studio team. And so in the next 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to talk through some of the latest findings that we've been researching and doing surveys on agent readiness, building a framework, and sharing that with you all and doing a bit of a demo as well to how you can do the assessment yourself and get your own personalized results. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll try to get to them at the end if there's time, but we've got a lot of stuff to get through, so we'll get started. All right, so what are we going to talk about? First, we're going to start with understanding what is agent readiness. What does it mean at the highest level? Then we'll talk about some of the initial findings from our enterprises from the survey of 500 ITDMs and decision makers. We'll then get into what is the 5-pillar framework to success for setting your organization up for success with agents. And then finally, what are those next steps? What can you be doing to one, improve your agent readiness, and what sort of programs and Kickstarters can you join to then develop those skills as needed? So let's get into it. What is agent readiness? The simplest definition I always use is that, I'm just saying there's a question, no question. The simplest definition is agent readiness is your organization's ability to design, deploy, and integrate AI agents effectively and at scale relative to your enterprise's objectives. So it's not a one and done thing. It's not just a tick box exercise. It's an iterative process that you continuously do over time to constantly improve and refine the way that you run and manage agents inside your organization. So it means not just being stuck in the pilot phase. It means putting together processes and various different themes and activities together to help your organization be set for success. Now, if we bring this together and understand the why, so if you understand what does agent readiness mean, here is your momentum that's going to drive and want to be that initiator and fire starter to get these readiness pillars in place for your company. IDC projects around 1.3 billion AI agents by 2028. And so it's not just a niche trend, it's really going to shape the way that companies are working with agents, and you're going to want to put the foundations in from the beginning so you can set yourself up for success and you're not having to be reactive and be on the back foot from the beginning. Now, a couple of insights from the survey that we did back in September, just to go from the highest level, and then we'll dig deeper into each of the pillars and what we found where companies were doing really well and where companies were doing not so well and there was opportunity to do better. The first one, maybe no surprise really, that 78% reported a gap in capturing business processes and data dependencies. And so really quite a few organizations were struggling to understand, what does their business processes look like today? Are they actually written down? Are they very clearly documented? And could they share them with their various different teams across the organization to help redefine and modernize those processes? If you don't have them documented, it's very hard to then identify them, because agents are only as good as the processes and the instructions that they sit upon. Number 2 is data foundations. No surprise, 80% reported that data wasn't even accessible across teams to actually support the AI use cases. Again, like the GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Agents are only as good as the data that it sits upon. So if you're not giving the data accessible to the teams to build their agents upon, then you're not really setting up your company for success. Thirdly, two out of three organizations are still identifying the accountable executive sponsors. So having that one person, maybe, or a couple of people across the company that will be that leadership position, vocalize the use cases and make sure people are set up for success and have the right support and investment in their company. Now, if we bring all that together, we also asked the 500 ITDMs, where are they in terms of agent deployment today? Well, most of them are exploring agents already. About 4 in 5 are already reporting being passed or in the pilot phase. So built an agent, they're trying to figure out how they can scale it or prove the value. 15% of those are still reevaluating their AI strategy after going through that pilot phase. And 32% are already looking to scale that technology much more broadly across the company, thinking about a platform approach. Now, if we bring all this together, This is where we really wanted to build clarity for all of you as you start to think about using agents in your organization. And what we want you to take away is that it's not just a technology conversation. It's not just I'm going to buy an agent tool and I'm just going to distribute across my company and there's my agent strategy. It really is a mix of strategy and execution. And so starting from the left, the AI business strategy, it's how well can you align your AI and agent use cases to your core business priorities? What are you trying to achieve in your company? Is it to reduce the bottom line? Is it to increase revenue? Is it to reduce cost, etc.? Number two, how well can you understand your workflows and dependencies so agents fit seamlessly within your existing ecosystem? Your technology and data strategy, of course, is one of the most important foundational ones. Do you have the right platform that's open, integrated, and accessible? How do you approach your people? So you remember thinking about people, process, and culture. Preparing your teams with the right roles, the right development opportunities, the right change management programs to set them up for success for agents as well. And then finally, security and governance, one of the most important. Building the right trust with the right controls and guardrails to set people up for success with the right processes so they can use AI and agents effectively in their company. Now, if you bring all these together, this will increase your chances of having the right foundations in to set your company up for success. And what we did very quickly see that while we have these 5 pillars, companies were doing well on both sides of the spectrum, but there was always opportunity for improvement. On the left was how well were they approaching the AI strategy perspective? So being prepared, writing down the plan, sharing it, vocalizing it, communicating it, understanding how it aligns to your business objectives that we spoke about, and then aligning your business process mapping. But then on the other side was more about how companies were doing it from an operational perspective. What were they doing day to day, from integrations, actually doing training and skilling programs, or actually putting the guardrails into play? Now, the magic, when you get both of these right and you get the right balance, this is where organizations will be more set up for success. Now, just to bring to life how we got this insights and data, just so you can understand where it's coming from and the perspectives that we're sharing, we started with 500 agent decision makers and influencers. It was across 13 countries, 16 industries, a variety of them, a minimum of 1,000 employees and a minimum of 1 billion revenue as well. So around, I think most of them, 97 of the companies that we spoke to had 5 to 10 billion in revenue. So thinking more of the enterprise. From a geographical perspective, 40% were from North America, 40% were from Europe, and 20% by APAC and emerging. Just so you can start to see, like when we talk about these insights, this is where it's coming from and the various different roles that were involved. When it comes to the questions that we asked to help shape this framework and understand where companies were doing really well and where they could be doing better, again, we had about 5 questions per pillar, where we could then understand whether they strongly agreed all the way to strongly disagreed, help understand, do they feel comfortable on this? You will see all these questions and you can answer them when you go to the Agent Readiness Assessment, and I'll share the link very soon, but just to show you have visibility of what these look like. And then we brought all of these questions together as agent readiness capabilities and built this weighted model that helped companies understand what their score was. And so were they doing really well by a specific pillar, which then fell into strategy or execution, and then that would give them their overall agent readiness score. Now, the score isn't to say, you're amazing, keep doing what you're doing. The intention is that the score just gives you a bit of an indication of where you're doing well and where you're not doing so well. So it's not to say you're doing absolutely perfect, you don't need to do anything, or you're not doing enough, then you shouldn't even try for agents. It's about just giving you an educated approach to how you could think about agent readiness. So let's get more into the findings and share about what were we really starting to see. Now, across the 500 submissions and survey responses that we received, we started to see 4 very obvious segments based off the how well they were performing across strategy and execution. Now, what you'll notice at the very top right, you'll see the agentic achievers. We'd like to try to describe these as the companies that are being agent first. They're thinking about maybe like the frontier firm narrative that you start to think about. This was around 20% of the population. We then had the bottom left, which were agentic discoverers, which was about 60% of the population. Those were doing lower scores across the board for both strategy and execution. We then had agentic visionaries that were doing really well from a strategy perspective, but less so well on the execution. And then we had operators that were doing not so well on strategy, but actually really were solid on the execution and operational perspective. So you can see across the board, it's pretty dispersed. We'd love for as many organizations to start to get to the top right, where they feel confident on the strategy and the day-to-day processes. Now, the reality is, this isn't to say that the bottom left aren't using agents. It's just about their readiness. Like, what are they doing proactively to set their company up for success? So all of these could be using agents, but the reality is they might be having varied levels of success and varied levels of strategy and execution when you bring it together. Now, this is just a more granular view, so you can see it by pillar as well. So, for example, discoverers across the board, you can see around, on average, 25% of responses in the discoverer section were doing well across those 5 different categories. And again, achievers all the way to the right, sitting in the high 80s, performing well across the board for those 5 different ones. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just in case you want to do a bit of a deeper dive later on. Now I'm going to hand you over to Joe to talk about, what does this really matter when you look at agent readiness? What are the actual benefits and how organizations can start to thrive?
Thanks, Jack. So why does agent readiness matter? Well, it matters because it's an all-encompassing AI assessment that's company-wide. And when aligning strategy and execution, businesses can create the conditions for agents to deliver measurable value at speed and scale. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, organizations in the achiever segment, as we previously looked at, report a timeline to deploy agents beyond pilots in around 6 months, compared to those that are discoverers, which take up to 15 months. That's roughly a 2.5 times faster deployment process. So it's showing readiness can actually have an impact to value. Back to you, Jack.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and just to recap, like, this is companies saying that by them focusing on strategy and execution, they're already seeing and planned timelines much shorter than they would expect typically if they weren't as prepared. I think it's a pretty obvious observation, but those timelines really can make a difference when you're trying to drive business value very quickly and drive those proof points beyond a pilot. And then we also asked, like, as you start to think about bringing agents into your company, where are your focus areas? Where are you going to start? What are some of the departments and scenarios that you want to focus on? Now, no surprise, again, some of the most common agent use cases that showed up and scored the highest were sales and marketing, customer service, and IT on the right. But we're also seeing many other scenarios like procurement, HR, supply chain, and finance on the left that are growing at high percentages. So this is just showing the current usage by the companies that we spoke to, and then the planned and future agentic AI adoption as well. But a key takeaway for you to think about is that it's a platform approach, that these companies aren't just saying, we're just going to use IT scenarios, or we're just going to use finance. They're thinking bigger picture. How can they distribute this technology across their company and set everyone up for success? Okay, so now we're going to go into each of the different pillars and share some insights, and then also some potential hows and suggested ideas that you can think about to improve those scores if they're lower. The first one being business and AI strategy. Like, this ultimately comes down to, as I mentioned, how well do your agent and AI scenarios actually drive business tangible outcomes? There was 3 key observations that we started to find. The first one was, how many out of those 4 segments that we spoke about, from discoverers, operators, visionaries, and achievers, how well were they doing across enterprise-wide approach to AI, viewing AI as an essential investment, and tracking AI value? And so the good news is operators, visionaries, and achievers were thinking about enterprise approach to AI. They're thinking about, no, I'm not just going to look at it in a silo or for a specific department. How can my whole company benefit? Now, lots of opportunity for discoverers that were scoring quite low, but thinking about that unified cross-functional approach will help you be set up for success and actually benefit the whole org as opposed to just a specific department. The second one was quite a surprise for visionaries performing so well on this one, which was, how well are they making AI investment, or how well do they see making AI investments that are essential to achieving their long-term business goals? Now, visionaries actually did better than achievers on this score, and we're thinking because they're spending more time on strategy and less on the doing, where achievers have a bit more of a balance. This is where we start to see a bit more of that sway to visionaries thriving on this side. Now, really, an investment in AI doesn't matter unless you really can track it back to the real business value. And so the final question was, how well are you tracking the value of AI initiatives using clear financial and operational business outcomes? Again, across the board, the maturity kind of depended. Discoverers and operators were not doing as well. Visionaries and achievers were doing much better. And so really, opportunity for improvement across the board to really how you drive your alignment to your business strategy, but real tangible KPIs and outcomes that you can tie back to be set up for success.
So where are you on your journey? Well, like building on the last slide about aligning business and AI strategy, this view shifts to how strategy shows up in real work. Like, how do you actually get the strategy in place? Well, there are 4 dimensions to this. There is employee experience and actually enriching your employees, customer engagement, then you've got business processes and innovation. Well, across all of these are where agentic AI helps to actually deliver impact. Now, there's something to think about, right? Are you using AI to onboard employees faster? Are you looking to personalize their learning? Are you looking to automate workflows like procurement or compliance? Well, the goal is to simply connect readiness to tangible outcomes, show that strategy alignment translates into measurable improvements across these areas. Next slide, please. So this is where you go from strategy alignment to actually having an organizational structure with roles, responsibilities that make it real. And from experience, this is very, very important. At the top, you have AI leadership. That's what's going to set the vision in your company and investment priorities. They're basically making quarterly decisions that guide the enterprise roadmap and things like that. They are going to be the visionary people for your company. They're going to be the ones at the top leading the charge. But then you're going to have the senior leadership. That translates to what the overall AI leadership vision is and actually sets it into business priorities and partnerships, resolving blockers monthly, getting together and actually making things move along and be in place. Now, we're talking about AI leadership and senior leadership, but what is really important here, it's super important, and I can't emphasize this enough, is governance. You're going to want AI governance that operates weekly to enforce standards, to make sure standards are met across the company, manage architecture, and ensure responsible AI practices. This is where a lot of companies should focus on. Once they have like a vision and they have someone in place to actually lead that vision, you need to then focus on AI governance. And then finally, you will have your IT and citizen developers. These are the individuals that are going to drive daily execution. They're going to be the individuals that focus on the design, the build, and the adoption activities. The key takeaway from this is that agent readiness requires clear accountability across the levels that are not just technology choices, it's people focused as well. Okay, so I'm going to pass you back to Jack now for the metrics on this.
Thanks, Joe. And just a final comment on this slide as well. I love that thinking about it's a top down and a bottom up approach. Like you can see all the different parties that are involved. And one of the most popular questions I get, which is like, what does even a rhythm of business look like when I run an AI initiative or agent initiative in my company? You can see how often on the left, from daily citizen development use and IT teams, all the way to quarterly syncs with AI leadership, just to make sure there's continuous alignment back to that business strategy that we just spoke about.
For sure.
Now, the second part is, how do you track this? Like, how could you even come up with some metrics to measure the success of our interactions in our company, the various different processes that happen, whether it's like the intake form for how many people want to use agents and then bringing that back to value. I love this example of just some of the key metrics that you could write down and set targets for and use it as a bit of a scorecard. And so whether it's like alignment to RAI, responsible AI principles, whether it's the ROI, return on investment of agents, or even if it's the metrics for how often are you enabling and bringing in new employees to learn and train and use AI agents in the workplace, that you can kind of use in each of these different metrics where appropriate to help present back to leadership to understand the progress that you could be making with agents. Okay, so going into the next pillar, which is business process mapping. This is all about creating clarity for your day-to-day business analysts that are trying to understand what are the processes that are going in your company. 3 key categories of insights that we found here, which was like, how well can they document the processes that exist today? How well are they mapping the actual technology and workflows that exist? And then again, what are the actual success metrics? Like, the number one question is like, why are we doing the business process the way we're doing it today? Like, is it working? Is it not working? You'll be surprised how many people don't challenge the status quo or even have a clear understanding of the success metrics that attach to the existing processes today, and might find maybe they could modernize it. Maybe they could even retire that process. And so the first one, documented processes. Again, you can see achievers across the board are doing much better at capturing the business process and the data dependencies that are required. Discoverers doing not so well. So again, a big gap and dependencies and maturity gap between who can thrive in being able to list out all the different business processes that exist versus those that can't. Second one is, how well can you identify and attract the actual technologies and tools and applications used in your workflows today? Like, what is the databases that are being used in the back end? What are the different automation tools that maybe you're using today? Visionaries and achievers are doing very, very well. Again, discoverers are lagging behind, which shows maybe a lack of clarity in the workflows and the tools that they're using today. And finally, I think this is probably the biggest opportunity for improvement, just because it's the lowest scoring across the four different segments, which is then again tying those success metrics back for each of those different workflows. And so what is the cost of running that process today? Like, what is the intention of that workflow? Is it to drive automation and reduce cost? Is it to accelerate revenue as well? So opportunity to really strengthen and measure those practices. One of the great tools that we've seen as well is that business process mapping tools that can really start to help shape and create digital maps of your business processes today to know where then the bottlenecks are as well. So think about how technology might be able to help you as you start to shape your business process mapping progress as well. Now, I love this simple visual just to think, if you're in a business today, you're in a brand new department, you don't really know what's going on in your business and why, start with these simple 4 steps. You could start by just creating an inventory, documenting every workflow, who owns it, and what are some of the exceptions that might take place today. Then you could start to map what technology and data points, inputs and outputs could be happening for each of those business processes, and then start to write down what are the KPIs of business value to know that those processes have been successful. Now, the nice part is that you can bring this together and use a very popular framework called the BXT framework. I'm all for visual, simple ways of thinking about, if I had this massive business process lists of 100 processes and where we need to focus, we can use this simple framework to then make and emphasize which one's going to add the most value. And so whether it's business impact, where you can look at the executive strategy alignment, the actual business value and the change management, like how long will it take to implement the use case? Is there actually desirability? There's no point building an agent or an AI use case if there's no personas that are actually interested in using that scenario. And will there be any resistance? Will there be some hesitancy in using it? Is it because it could be connected to replacement, or is it because it's just going to change the way that they're working? And then technical feasibility as well. So implementation, operational risks. Is there actual safeguards from a security and governance perspective? And will it actually fit in our technology ecosystem today? And Joe's going to touch a little bit on that very soon. Okay, so back to Joe. We're going to touch on the 4th pillar, which is technology and data foundation. Third,
okay,
actually.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take a look at the technology and data foundation then. Those that have actually integrated AI into IT systems, well, like the achievers, for example, they lead at 57%, while discoverers are just at 6%. This is showing that the integration is a huge major differentiator. Those that define the owners of knowledge sources, that actually show that operators and achievers are stronger in this range as well, 35 to 46%, whereas discoverers, again, they lag behind at 30%, signaling the governance gaps. And that's the governance that I was talking about previously. It's super important to ensure that you have a governance so you can understand who owns what, keep track of what's going on, etc. Well, we mentioned previously how important governance is, and that's one of the key takeaways here. And it's reinforced by the data, and you should just really take note of that. I can't emphasize that enough. Key governance is key to success as well. Well, then those with data accessibility. That shows that even top performers are under 50%. What does this kind of mean? Well, it translates that data is into usable formats is a challenge for all of these segments. Actually getting data into usable formats that you can use with your agents is quite challenging for everyone. And it's something that everyone needs to take accountability and work on to try and improve your processes. And ultimately, what this does show is that technology readiness isn't just about tools. It's about integration, ownership, and also data accessibility at scale. It's about the people as well. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. we are looking at technology stacks now. So what is in your technology stack? What does it look like? Well, this is an example of an integrated Microsoft-led technology stack. You can have user experiences using multi-channel entry points like Copilot, Teams, Office, and other third-party applications. It doesn't just have to be Microsoft. It can be third-party applications as well. Then you have the building tools. You can use Copilot Studio to create your agents, M365 Agents SDK for a more code-first approach if you wanted to create an agent in that way, or even the AI agent service. Then, when you are hosting your model, where are you hosting it? There's plenty of options from Microsoft's Foundry to other self-hosted ones or other clouds for flexibility. You have ultimate flexibility of choice. Then what are you actually going to do with your knowledge and tools? Well, you can use connectors, you can use context protocols, you can use APIs to link agents with enterprise systems. You've got all of this freedom as well. So it's something to think about. There's so many options that you can choose from. And what that does is it opens up the ability to then have an agent control plane. Like, how do you have the agent control plane with an environment management system as well? Are you going to be focusing on like security, lifestyle, observability, and cost controls? These are very fundamental things that you need to think about. And this is to ensure trust and scalability. The key takeaway from this isn't that it's simply a standalone stack. You're not going to just have an out-of-the-box system. You're going to want to pick and select what you want to choose, but it's designed to fit in with your enterprise architecture, and the governance is also built in with Microsoft. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next slide about organizational readiness and also the culture. So back to you, Jack.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, so let's talk about, we just talked about technology and data and putting the right foundations in. Let's talk about the people, because as you start to think about agents in your company, with most technology projects, right, it's usually the people that can create the limitation. You've got to have buy-in, you've got to enable them, you've got to make sure they're set for success and that they understand the why and the value that they're going to see when using these solutions and technologies. And so again, across the board for these three different insights that we found for organizational readiness and culture. First one being, how well are organizations thinking about reinventing their talent strategy? And so what does that mean? It means being able to define clear jobs in the company that will be impacted and what the future will look like for them. What are the skilling opportunities and the new roles that will show up in this AI-driven world? And so thinking about maybe from a HR perspective, how do they start to shape, make sure that they create net new roles that are being impacted by AI and help drive and make sure that these people are building the right skills towards that. Again, you can see operators and achievers are doing pretty well from that perspective, but surprisingly, visionaries not doing so well despite really thriving from a strategy perspective. They scored much lower on being able to reinvent talent strategy. The second one is, as you start to think about AI and agents, there's one consistent theme that we've seen with most technologies, the democratization of the technologies. It gets more accessible, it becomes simpler with low code or no code tools. You need to start to think about how do you create that culture of innovation where you are reinforcing that it's okay for employees in your company to try these tools, to build their skills, to maybe build some agents or AI in a safe environment and a safe managed environment. And so embracing that culture of innovation by building with these AI powered tools is very important. And operators and achievers are doing very well because they thrive from an execution perspective. Again, discoverers and visionaries have an opportunity for improvement, but think about how you can really start to shape the expectation in your company to set employees up for success with the right tools. And then finally, you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have the right change management plan to actually move the needle from getting the people from A to B to be set up for success with the new ways of working, then it's ultimately not going to be much success. So again, achievers, visionaries, and operators are doing well. Operators and visionaries are doing okay. Discoverers, lots of room for improvement, but starting to think about what change management programs can you do to actually help with the transition of the bringing AI into your workforce. Now, Joe's going to talk about bringing some of these ideas to life and how you can actually help employees in your day-to-day be set for success with AI.
Thanks, Jack. So how do you actually prepare then? Well, let's take a look at identifying employee groups. segment it by role. You have leaders, you have IT owners, pro devs, IT pros, citizen developers, business sponsors, and end users. You have all of these different type of roles. So learning maps to real responsibilities and outcomes, actually putting these people on a guided path and giving them the information that they need to ensure that they have the relevant information, especially for their roles. What about actually assessing maker readiness then? Like, you've done all of this, how do you actually assess maker readiness? Well, you can use a simple maturity check to set styling levels at the right depth of engagement for each group. Each of these may be at certain levels, like the pro developers may have already had some experience from other areas. They may be working in different things compared to someone that's like an end user. You may want to just like see if you're looking at bringing end users into doing any like maker readiness type of stuff, you want to actually have this maturity check to kind of see the starting levels and get the right depth for those individuals. Well, what about defining specific learning paths then? Well, this is where it comes in. Pair role-based curricula with actual hands-on projects. You're going to want community touch points so that knowledge turns into capability. You don't want to just throw some videos out and say, okay, well, we've made something, go down the learning path. You actually want to interact with these individuals. You're going to then want to operationalize adoption, stand up champions, have office hours, have people come and ask questions. Just like on this call, you're coming to learn, right? You're being able to ask questions in the chat, and you're going to be able to do that with your people internally because it's going to open up enablement. And what that's going to do is it's going to then link outcomes to tie paths back to priority use cases and KPIs from earlier in the slides that we were talking about. So training actually accelerates measurable impact. Then what we've got is once you've actually done this, you're going to want to walk through the actual skills that you've actually built, targeted learning paths. The next step is creating the space where you actually use those skills and best practices and how they can be shared and at scale. Because if you're doing this and you're doing it in silos and you're not actually sharing and scaling, you're going to have segments of your company at different levels, and they may be in the same role, and you're not going to be able to essentially keep track of what's going on. So you're going to want to ensure that you can actually share and scale. Well, what you're going to want to do then is launch an actual maker community. Use the hackathons and shared resources to bring practitioners together and accelerate innovation. This is going to free you up to have innovative projects in your company so that you can see what you can do with adoption. You're going to allow freedom of creativity to expand. Then you're going to want to document and actually share that. You're going to want to capture the processes that are working. If you're not capturing anything, you're not going to know what's working, right? So if you capture processes, you find out what's working, you find out then what the best practices are for that, and it becomes reusable across teams. You're going to want to engage leadership and developers. You're going to want to onboard sponsors. You're going to want organizational leaders alongside this to essentially build momentum so that credibility is there as well. Then ultimately, you're going to want to scale and grow. And that's what we're aiming for, right? We're aiming to scale and grow this. So we're going to want to empower those that are champions and run community events to sustain engagement, to ensure that people know what's going on and they actually interact with you. And what that's going to hopefully then do is spread adoption enterprise-wide. So now I'm going to hand you back to Jack.
Thank you very much, Joe. So as you can tell, lots of good opportunities to build community, drive innovation in your company. And so if your organization has worked with low code before, like the Power Platform, this stuff isn't new. Like, you've been creating groups of communities, of building skills, hackathons, all these different opportunities for learning and development. It's a continued space of that. So if you've done that before, low code, continue to iterate and evolve with the new technologies as they come in, like agents. But if you're brand new to this sort of thing, check out how the low code teams across, there's lots of stories online sharing their experiences of how they build community of practices as well.
For sure, but
Okay,
then we need to
so
think about security, right?
of course, and then it all comes down to security. If you want to enable your
Yeah.
people, if you want to distribute the technology to your end users, then you need to make sure you have the right safeguards and the right controls in practice. And so this final pillar comes down to making sure that you have the right safeguards and compliance to set your company up for success, that you can drive innovation, but also manage risk in the right way. Now, three key insights from the security and governance side that we found was, especially from a governance perspective, as we kind of mentioned, executive sponsorship, operators, visionaries, and achievers are doing pretty well, but again, discoverers have a big opportunity here. So maybe they're struggling for having the right executive sponsor that can support and emphasize that initiative and get a bit of focus in there. Number two is making sure that you have the right safeguards. Like this is one of the number one pieces of priorities for IT teams is making sure that when you use AI, it can be used safely, it can be used responsibly, and it's secured and governed. And so you may have seen developments like Agent 365 in preview at Ignite and lots of other developments to help companies understand how, if you have many agents in your company, how can you monitor them? How can you control them in the right way? Good news is, operators from an execution perspective are doing really well, but again, discoverers remain far behind, showing the maturity disparation, I guess, across those four different segments. And then finally, how well are these companies doing for actively monitoring AI usage to ensure compliance with regulations and responsible AI principles? Good news, achievers are doing really well. They're being thoughtful about maybe how the responsible AI principles apply to their day-to-day work and how well they're understanding what maybe the local, regional level or AI policies that exist in the various different countries that they operate in. For example, Europe will vary compared to North America as an example. Okay, so we bring these together. Joe's going to share some insights into how you can start to think about security governance in action.
Okay, so obviously security, super important, right? And you've got security and governance. As you start thinking about security and governing your agents, you're going to want to think about, okay, how do I manage makers and agents with clear roles and accountability? What about the data? Like, how do I build data security in? How do I add safety guardrails into every workflow? How do I keep things secure? What about evaluation? Like, how do I evaluate AI? How am I ensuring that like I'm confident what's happening and the agents are run through red teams and continuous risk assessments? You're going to also want to think of like, okay, well, how do I manage like posture and protect against these actual threats proactively? What threats are actually occurring? How do I actually put in position something that I'm going to like handle with this? Well, obviously Microsoft helps with all of this. So how do I secure and govern data and access with enterprise grade controls? Well, this is where foundational commitments come in that Microsoft helps with. Secure future initiatives by designing, by default, and in operations. You've then got the actual privacy principles. Data remains private, but what about at work? What about at home? What about if you're on the go? How are you going to handle the privacy principles for this, and how are you going to handle access to the data? What about then the actual responsible AI principles? What about fairness? What about reliability? What about safety? What about inclusiveness? All of these things that you want to combine in your organizational governance. Like, how are you going to achieve this? Well, Microsoft's built-in commitments to create a trusted environment for agent adoption is there, and it actually helps with this. So it's extremely important to start secure, but then ultimately stay secure. You're going to want to ensure that you think about all of these different key areas, what you're going to put in place, and how you're going to achieve them, especially when you're starting to create agents. And if you're on the first part of your journey, don't leave this to when you've already created agents. So then you're about to roll out and then you start thinking about security. Start thinking about it as soon as you're starting to think about creating agents, because the sooner you start thinking about security, the better. Okay, so now we're going to actually have a demo of the Agent Readiness Framework, and I'm going to hand you over to Jack to demo this for us.
Thank you, Joe. All right, so I want you to all try. So if you've got a tab open on the side, if you're lucky, you've got two screens, or if you just want to quickly switch over, if there's an AKA just here that you can type in into your browser, and it will take you to the Agent Readiness Assessment. And I'm going to walk you through how it works, give you some insight so you can all get your own little personalized results based off this quick assessment that you can do in about 10 minutes, and we'll quickly click through. And so it's aka.ms/agent readiness. And I'm just going to quickly open up my browser so you can all see what it looks like.
I've also just put the link in chat for you guys.
Thank you, Joe. Is it coming through? Can you see it? Let me know when you can see it.
No.
Does it come up? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. All right, so this is the Agent Readiness Assessment. Simple landing page where you can get started and understand agent readiness. Just to quickly talk through some of the core components. You can see a sample report that will show what will you actually get if you spend 10 minutes answering the questions. What could a report actually look like? So you can download that if you want. It will quickly show you a PDF. There is the Download the Agent Readiness ebook, which is about 40 pages of different insights, bits that we've spoken about today, but other net new insights as well, if you want to take advantage of that. We talk high level on the Agent Readiness Framework. What are those 5 pillars that we've just spent the last half an hour talking through? And then you can get started. And so what I'm going to show is how to actually, get through the questions and then get your various different responses from that. So we have 2 simple questions just asking, like, where are you today? Where do you feel like your company is? We could say we're deploying agentic AI solutions and transforming end-to-end workflows, and our timeline is between 6 to 12 months. Now, as you go through, we've got the 5 pillars, each with the 5 questions that we asked the same 500 individuals in the last survey. So you can put all of your different answers here. Depending on how you feel, based off each of these different statements. Now, I'm going to quickly skip over rather than quickly click through 25 times to the landing page that will ultimately take you once you answer those 25 questions, or 27 questions technically. What you'll get greeted with is your segment, just to give you an idea about how you're doing compared to those other individuals. Remember, we spoke about the discoverer, the operator, the achiever, and there's one visionary, those 4 different ones there. And so what's nice is that you can see, based off your responses, how are you doing compared to others, about how comfortable you feel across strategy and execution that we just spoke about. So you can see where some people are doing really well and where you kind of sit. You can see the population of each of the different segments, and you can quickly get a high level kind of maturity descriptive word for how well you're doing in each of these different ones. So I'm scaling in business AI strategy, I'm exploring in business process mapping, I'm exploring in technology data foundations. It will depend on what you answer ultimately. And what it gives you is a quick highlights of the things you're doing well based off how well you scored, and the things that you could be focusing on and developing a little bit more. Now, purposely, the website just shows the high-level category names. What you need to do is just download your results. There's no gate or anything. You don't need to put in your information or anything like that. You just need to click download your results, and it will download the PDF directly for you. I've already opened one up right here. And then this is what it will look like. So it will give you the time that you started your submission, just so if you want to do it again in the future, you could see how it could maybe compare. And you get all the insights that we've pretty much spoke about, like the agent readiness of what it is and why we created the framework, where you sit compared to your other individuals. You can download the ebook again from here if you need to. You get a nice little scorecard. So this person, I put a lot of like strongly agree on these statements. So we're in the planning phase. And you can see from left to right how well we're doing by overall agentic score, strategy score, execution, and then the granularity of each of those different pillars that we spoke about. Now, what's nice is that in each of the pillars, we then have insights and suggested next steps that you could consider to improve the scores if they need to do better. And so the business and AI strategy one, you can see we have our readiness highlights here, because again, AI vision was the only thing that we put strongly agree on and felt like we were good at. And then the focus areas you can see below, like AI vision, cross-functional approach. You can see there's then suggestions of 3 things that you could consider to improve that perspective. So if I just pick one random one, I put that I'm maybe not so good at defining key KPIs for my for business strategy. So what I could do is tie AI metrics to enterprise scorecards, automate reporting to help improve timeliness and accuracy of insights, and use those insights from measurement to refine investment decisions. And so these are just some good ideas and insights for you to consider for each of these. And again, we have that for every single pillar. So depending on where you're doing really well, you'll see less insights, and it'd be more like you could maintain and understand these. You could maintain the momentum for this specific highlight, but you could also do better in these different areas as well. So take the time, like download the report, understand what the insights are for you, and help understand how you could continue to improve your experience for each of the different pillars in your company. And then at the end, we have the methodology of how we did the survey in the first place, the various different scoring, the segments that we spoke about, and then we also have some of the stages and signals just to explain, like, what does, if you're exploring in the business and AI strategy, what does that mean? Or if I'm realizing, what does that mean from the highest level? And you have all your different answers here noted down in the appendix. So again, you can refer back to as needed and build a bit of a plan. And so quickly, from zero idea, let's say you've never worked on agent readiness in your life and you've been challenged in your company to say, hey, help us build a strategy, help us, build some operational execution lens for our company. You can go into this assessment, answer a couple of questions, and you'll get some relevant insights personalized to how you've answered your responses as well. Okay, so we're just going to close on the final section now, and then we'll start to wrap up. So let me just present this back in. I'm just going to present the slides. Awesome to hear the good feedback. Keep the feedback coming. Like if there's any questions you have, feel free. We're absolutely happy to answer the questions. And great point that Joe's just answered. When we created this agent readiness framework, we really wanted to make sure that it was technology agnostic. We didn't want to feel like you spent the time filling out this answers and then it says, go buy this product. We want you to understand how you can improve your agent readiness no matter what technology you're using within Microsoft or broader. So let me go to the final slides. So just to recap, we've been through all the different insights for each of the different pillars, and this is the framework that we've shaped to help companies understand how to start with their agent readiness, from making sure your AI aligns back to your business strategy to prove real business ROI for agents, how you can understand what's going on in your business today from a specific business processes. Why are you doing them? Challenge the status quo. How can you modernize and agentify them? Making sure you have solid technology and data foundations to set your company up for success with clear integration points, open APIs so you can integrate your AI into your technology stack that you have today. How you're going to prepare your people with the right organizational readiness and culture, thinking talent strategy, change management, driving that culture of innovation. And then finally, the security and governance by having the right guardrails and the right processes to help your company use AI in the right way, but also give them the right boundaries so they can be set up for success with low risk. Again, if you haven't taken the agent readiness assessment, there's the final AKA that we just walked through. And one thing I really want you to take away is, like, what is this next step? If you've read that agent readiness assessment, you've got your scores, you've got some insights, but actually maybe you want some more hands-on training, some more insight on how you could improve that pillar. We've been working with PowerCat on building out some of the different Kickstarters and webinars that they have to help you understand and get educated on each of these different sections. So if you're scoring really low on AI and business strategy, you could consider joining the Kickstarter on building your Frontier Firm playbook. Or if you're struggling with how to secure and govern your AI agents, you could join the Kickstarter that's been created there. And they're all available at the aka.ms/agent readiness programs as well. And so just to close, if there's 4 things that you take away from this call today, which is do the agent readiness assessment, just get an insight into how your organization is performing today. Then review the results and also maybe take a look at the ebook that we've written that's 40 pages on agent readiness and a little bit more insight. It's not personalized, the ebook in the second point. It's more generalized, but has a lot of good valuable insight. So join the personalized report that you have with the ebook, have a read. You could even use AI to summarize them if you want quick insights. Thirdly, join the programs and the workshops to accelerate your understanding and readiness for your company. And then start to build that prioritized roadmap. Understand what goes on in your business. Use the BXT framework to understand where you need to prioritize and spend the time and energy to transform your business processes, and then really start your journey on agent readiness. Now, we're coming to the end of it, so I want to thank you all for the time and spending the time to invest in learning how you can improve your agent readiness and put the right foundations in so you can feel confident and have the clarity to go beyond, pick the right agent technologies for your company, and then really start to expand your knowledge as needed. We'll stay here for a couple of minutes just to answer any questions, but we want to thank you for the time. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I wish you all the best with your agent readiness journey.
Great. Thank you so much, Jack and Joe. Really, really appreciate the time that you took to do this. Just a quick announcement for everyone. I mentioned this in the chat, but just to emphasize to everyone here, this is going to be the start potentially of an ongoing community call that will be dedicated to agents. I know previously we had a Dynamics call, we had for CRM and for ERP, we had a Power Platform call as well. But we wanted to have something that really focused on agents because agents can really encompass everything. Instead of having to pick and choose, well, do I want to learn about agents in Dynamics or Power Platform or Copilot Studio or whatever it might be, to have one place to go to learn all things about agents. No set date for this yet, but I want to at least get a feel from the people who are here, because you're really going to be our target audience, of who might be interested in something like that. So I saw from some of the reactions to the announcement that there's going to be a pretty good amount. So stay tuned. We're going to start making some announcements to have a regular cadence for it, to have people like Jack and Joe, as well as other people from Microsoft to go into varying levels of depth into agents, everything from very, very low-level technical stuff to more roadmap-oriented conversations as well as an opportunity for you to talk about some of the discoveries you've made, showcase things, give some feedback, whatever it might be as a community. So be on the lookout for that. So thank you very much again, everybody.